That's it. The button says we're recording. We are the Unscrambled channel here today on the 13th of March 2019. It is me, Karen, and Patricia. So hi, Patricia.
Hello, Karen.
Hello, my darling. We decided to come together and talk a bit more about this Chris Watts case. We may try and give this case a bit of a break after today, because obviously, unless there's more information comes in, I'm not sure if we're going to get any more information. What do you reckon, Patricia?
Well, we don't know. I mean, I think personally, it's as far as he's concerned, it's all over and done with. But I don't think it is. There's still loose ends, and yeah, I don't know. He might say something else. I don't know.
I'd like to say, first of all, obviously our heart goes out to Shanann, Bella, Cece and Nico, and of course Shanann's family. Again, they've been Dr. Phil's, there's been the confession. Should we start with the confession, Patricia? What did you make of that then?
The actual confession or the interview?
Well, him talking to Tammy and Graham in February.
That's the interview then, because as far as they're concerned, it's all over and done with. They just wanted some clarification on stuff. It still left me with unanswered questions. I can't quite put my finger on it, but just, I don't know, none of it really makes sense. It does, in one respect, but then on another, it's like, just trying to piece everything.
I got a little bit sort of upset about the drive, to be honest, because I did, what was it? First of all, another channel was going on and on about the fact that his girlfriend was on the drive, and I thought, well, I'm going to go and have a look at this. But the more I broke the video down, the worse the video became. And I know to some people it might have looked like some blurs, but those that had actually followed it from 1 to 10 or 1 to 9, and then the other video I did, would see that there was just some great big anomalies with this footage. It's not right. It's like a child's done it. It's like it's been so mashed together that there's cartoons in it. And also there's a photograph of someone else that pops in and out of this footage, which is just impossible. And it's been added to the footage. So tell everybody again what you saw, Patricia, in the document, the discovery document.
Oh, about the I didn't know you. Sorry. That it only filmed 10 minutes, but there's like over an hour's worth of footage. So it's like a jigsaw piece. It doesn't quite sit. Like most people would view that and go, right, okay, it don't really show you the bodies, which, no one wants to see the bodies. But then people like yourself analyze it, and it's like it makes even less sense. And then he clarifies it, doesn't he? That's what he did. He took them out alive. And you just think, as someone told him that this story's going about, the footage is out there that they can actually see the bodies being dragged, and he's just gone along with it.
Well, that is something that I'm very, very surprised about, with all the questions that they had for him, that they still had to ask him whether the children were alive or not when he took them out. I mean, I thought they had the recorded videos. Remember, the district attorney stood in that court at sentencing and said that they all saw him take the bodies out like garbage. But if they all saw that people were alive, then wouldn't they have asked him different questions from the beginning?
Well, they probably wanted it from his mouth, but he's manipulated by people, and he went with the story of, because Tammy said, did Shanann kill the kids? And he's sort of gone, I mean, he admitted it himself that he went along with it. So as somebody else put implanted in his brain
And
that.
if say I walked into town today and a video caught me, say, stealing from a shop, then that is the evidence. They had the evidence, but according to it, they didn't have any evidence. They had nothing. They didn't have anything from this Vivant, nothing. Because otherwise they would have said, because what did he say in that interview? If you'd said that I saw you taking the children out, he would have said a different story. Well, it would have been another story, wouldn't it? But he would have said something different. So they didn't see him take anybody out. And even Nate says on national television, ABC television news in December, I only saw him back onto the drive. So that is a Pscyop, that drive video, because it's just full of so much crap.
Yeah, I mean,
and also, like you noted when we were talking about it before on a different one, we just did a little hangout on ourselves, but we're doing this off the channel. We're just putting it private right now. We will actually start maybe streaming off this channel, but basically, you watched it go from dark to varying levels of dusk until it was almost light when he left. But he left before sunrise, right? Sunrise was about 6:10 and he left at 5:45. So he was still in twilight zone. But you saw the differences. I mean, that wouldn't have happened in 10 minutes, would it?
No.
So then
no.
Sorry.
None of it makes sense. It's like, you'd think with all the surveillance cameras, I know people say he turned the Vivant off and all this lot, and we don't fully know because they're not really telling us. It's like we've become the detectives and we're trying to piece it together. They always say, I'm going to say too many cooks spoil the broth, but no, that's not the right thing, is it? You know, like more eyes, more hands-on, you know, but I don't know. There's just something strange about it altogether. It could be a Pscyop. I mean, I don't know. You know, depends on if you want to go down that road or not. But it just doesn't feel right. There's nothing.
I didn't particularly like this whole thing. I understand that they were trying to get more information out of him, but there wasn't any somber moment here for the sort of respect for Shanann and the children at all, and all this laughing and even talking about their sex life. I didn't think that was in very good taste, to be honest. And I don't think that really helped the case, to be honest, except just talk about things like loads of things, which, I don't know, about laughing. What did you reckon of that? I think it turned into people's stomach, that laughing.
It did. The thing is, they're trying to get him at ease. So, you know, so he'll open up. But I just think, stop interrupting, because they were interrupting, or they'd go from one question onto something totally different, and you think, no, you need to ask him a few more questions.
Yeah,
I know they said at the beginning,
yeah,
we don't want to take you into a dark place, but that's the whole point. We did want him to go into that dark place. We wanted to learn more about what he was thinking, what he was feeling. You know, we wanted. I know it's horrible to think of, but we needed that.
They gave it to us, didn't they? They went in there, and there was this one point where basically he's talking about Bella and what he did to Bella, and he said there was choking, and he said, and then he said, and the next thing he said was, and Nicole Atkinson came in the morning, and I thought, how could they move on if Bella was choking? Like, didn't they need to just go into that a bit more? I mean, it was obvious the child was trying to get away, and I mean, we did notice he had this bite mark on his neck.
I mean, it is upsetting when it's kids involved, and I don't mean to say anything less about Shanann, but when it's kids, it is horrible to hear. But I think part of us needs to hear that, you know, so that it
quite
can.
A lot of the people that even come to this channel or whoever going to other channels have spent hours and hours watching everything they can about this case. And we've all been like that, haven't we? I mean, I think for a while you thought, no, I can't take any more of this case. And then a few weeks ago, you got back into it again and started reading the discovery document. And then once you start reading these things, you can see that things just don't add up properly.
Yeah.
And I'm just surprised that a few of these things they didn't go more into, even like about Shanann. The moment it's like they were telling him, like it's like me saying, so you went to the shop, yes, you bought something, and he goes, yes, and it was like that they were saying everything rather than just letting him talk.
Yeah, I know that was what was really annoying for me. It's like just let him speak. He'll tell you more. All right, they needed to make him feel at ease. I get that. And I get the fact that, you know, they didn't want it to be too heavy. But when you're trying to clarify stuff, then you need to do that. You need to let him get to that dark place so you can try and fit it together, even though it doesn't quite make sense because, you know, he's got this thing where he doesn't want people to think bad of him. Well, I'm sorry, but, you know, however you've done it, you've killed, you know, 4 people. And, you know, people can't get their heads around it. Why could someone so loving and caring and, you know, for his kids do
Calm.
that?
Up until that moment, he was known as a very calm, placid person.
That's what they said. They couldn't get their head round how he would change.
I know
So
a lot
you'd
of people.
think,
A lot of people don't want to make this excuse, do they? But I just don't think those patches were helping. I really don't. I don't think they helped the situation. Whatever was in them, they didn't help him.
I think we should maybe get someone try it. No, I'm joking. Yeah, there's a lot of things that weren't helping, to be honest.
The only problem I have with him, right, I just find him so difficult, is that, okay, it takes 2 to tango, right? It takes 2 to have a marriage, and maybe things were slowly drifting off because once you start having children, you know, obviously she was all over him, the little boy that he was, and then having children and working, she had 2 children, a pregnancy and a job now with other people in it, which she liked. She loved her job. So she had all that going on. So there was less attention for him. I understand that, but he actually caused all this. This is all his fault. He's the one that cheated. He's the one that's lying. He's the one that's betraying. And unless you're on the same level, how could she ever match or work anything out? Because he was always somewhere else doing something else. And I mean, now you hear that basically didn't even stay in the house for the whole of July. I mean, it's just all wow. So he
Yeah.
I don't hear him really take responsibility for anything. He's talking like in the third person, as if this wasn't really anything to do with him. He hadn't really done all this. He
He
was
wasn't taking responsibility, was he?
the whole thing. He just went, don't know, don't remember, He did talk a little bit. He talked about things he could talk about, like the spade that broke, or he knew that Shanann had makeup running down her face. But there's such a lack of information about all the really important parts of it. And everybody, I'm sure, believes that he's still lying.
Yeah.
Your turn, Patricia.
covering his back, isn't he? Because even so, when he said things like, "I didn't want you to have to go through that," he's projecting his feelings onto them. Like, I didn't want you to go through it. So basically saying, I didn't want to go through that. I didn't want to recount everything that happened. That's why you don't want to look at the autopsy pictures and stuff like that. He can't face it. But they already admitted to it. So what else was there to face up to? You know, he'd already done it.
I think he should have been shown those pictures. I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Attorneys would have had copies of those autopsies and pictures, and he didn't want to understand any of it. I mean, that to me sounds like a man that's in total denial of what he's done, really.
Yeah.
Maybe he can only live with it in the fact that it was that Chris that did it. And I mean, didn't you find it really weird that when you were talking to him, if you hadn't known that he'd killed everybody, he sort of sounded like a nice guy, but the thing is that we know the truth.
Yeah, I mean, the detectives and that were interviewing him in the first place said there's 2 Chris's. You know, there's that nice Chris, and then there's this other Chris. They never said this horrible Chris. You know, I think a lot of people would have said, right, if I were in that interview room, I'd have whacked him, not physically whacked him, but I would have gone, you know. But you can't do that. You've got to treat people as people and with feelings. Well, in most cases, people have feelings, but
yeah, we do understand that although they're police officers and they're asking questions, it was done. They were trying to do it psychologically, and supposing with a narcissist, you're supposed to brush up their ego and make them feel wonderful. That feel wonderful.
yeah,
So
I
they
was just
put
going
him
to say,
at rest, didn't they? As if they were little bosom buds turning up for him. But it was a bit hard to swallow after what he did.
yeah, I was going to say about the ego. It was just trying to boost his ego. You know, like, oh, you look different. You know, and then it goes into a big, massive thing about how he's having to be watched while he's using a razor, and it's pretty much like a stick with a sharp edge, a stone with a sharp edge on that he had to cut his hair with, and all. Like, just be quiet. Just talk about the stuff we actually want to know about. I know it's horrible to know about it, but we already know he's killed everyone. So what else is there to
You
sort
mean
of?
all we were listening to again was him. I mean, he
Yeah,
painted Shanann in such a way, in a sense, because that's how the public turned on her. When really, I think most mothers who've got a couple of children and are working are pretty organised, and maybe she was a little bit bossy. But in all the photographs of him, until those last few weeks, he does not look like a man that was dragged through it. He looked like a man that was having a life, and he was quite happy. And he painted Shanann in this awful way, all because, like, overnight, he thought, I don't want this life. I want a completely different life, like overnight almost, within a couple of weeks.
yeah, just went from one extreme to another, didn't it? You know, and we know that, you know, things can change, that you fall out of love with someone because you've met someone else. You know, it's not anybody's fault, it's your own, isn't it? But to just go from that to killing him, like, it's unbelievable. You'd, like most people have said, get a divorce. You know,
He says in it a few times that, like, he needed to talk to her because he felt so guilty. So if he was feeling guilty, how come he killed her? He didn't. He should have taken responsibility. You know, if you get your wife pregnant, she's 15 weeks pregnant, and you want to change your life, then even if she didn't want to, like, she wouldn't have liked it, I'm going to give the money for the children. And he needed to sort all that out. He hadn't got that far in his head. I don't think it was about really leaving. The text messages were about her leaving him because she didn't want what she was being given in those weeks leading up to her death. But he wasn't really saying about leaving, not till the very end, really, not maybe to that last week, because he was putting, we need to downsize the house. He was trying to carry on. But I think she's obviously said she constantly was saying things all day long to him. And after maybe a week or two, he just couldn't, he decided he wanted it over. And then all that was known before that night. It wasn't a shock to him that she was thinking of leaving. She'd been saying it for a few weeks.
yeah, it's mind-boggling.
It's just really crazy that he used her maybe leaving and him not seeing the children as the reason why he might have snapped. But I just don't believe that. He even understands where she was lying in the bed, but he can't really do the distance of the 15 minutes he was straddled on top of her when she's 15 weeks pregnant, tired, upset, and being told her whole relationship really is over and he doesn't love her anymore. You know, like, he's just like, I think most of this happened in words he's saying about what he said, but just not in the way that he said all the time that he said. It's just, he's just lying still. You just know he is.
I mean, maybe these things that Shanann's supposed to have said and the conversations they've had, maybe they were all in his head. You know, none of them were actually said. It just basically, he was waiting for her to get home because she said, oh, you're not going to see the kids. And he thought, right, We don't know. We can't read his
Why
mind.
would he kill them then? It doesn't add up to why he'd suddenly want to kill them. I mean, those beautiful little things, how he could do what he did to them. It's bad enough what he did to Shanann, but what he did to the children, especially Bella, is just it is unforgivable. I'm sorry. You can't forgive a man for what he did. He didn't stop. He went on some rampage. And the thing is that it didn't all happen in one go. According to him, one person, Shanann, at the house, and then he drove 45 minutes with those poor little children with their feet on top of their dead mum. So there's a lot of thought. He was thinking all the time.
If he wasn't planning to kill them at that point, because he says, well, you sort of get the thing like, if I'd have thought about it before, you know, this is if you're calling it later on, I could have saved those girls, you know. But you're like, well, how would he have excused the fact that his two daughters were in the car? And he's like, oh, it's bring your daughters to work day. You know, it's like he knew exactly what he was going to do. He knew.
Thing is, well,
they were in the way
now, but he did say that Bella woke up because, oh, that was it. That was another one of those questions that they put in there, that Shanann, there was screaming. So Graham went, and there was screaming, and he said, and then they changed the subject. It's like, what? Oh, no, won't but they needed to have asked him more questions, because if she was screaming, no wonder Bella woke up. But I'm wondering, you know, my 4-year-old would have gone down and just gone 999. I don't know, children that age, they understand about the police. I'm wondering whether, do you think Bella went to ring the police up or the ambulance, because he's saying, Mummy's not very well. Well, we know what he's done. And then he had to do something then.
Well, we'll never, I don't think we'll ever know.
No, only he knows.
You know.
But I mean, he can't tell us the truth because it's worse than what we already know. That's why. And it would make him look worse animal than he is.
I don't think you could get any worse than somebody like that anyway. So I don't think he's got anything to lose. I just wish they'd have pressured him a little. Well, not pressured him, but like go into a bit more detail.
Well, they're going back in 6 months, are they? And I'm pretty sure I understand why they're going back in 6 months. And I hope that they really, really go over those 5.5 hours of footage or recording they took of him. And they actually go back to every time he said, I don't remember. Because he does remember.
I think they've...
You listen, even if you don't want to kind of admit things to yourself, nearly every day he will relive what he did. He will. Because he felt guilty enough about having an affair. So he's going to feel 1,000,000 times more guilty for actually killing everybody now. He's not on a rampage. So every day he will relive what he did. And he sat there and he completely lied again.
Yeah.
Couldn't even, for Shanann's memory and sake, and his children, tell the truth. And in it, I heard, was he Crime? Oh, I've forgotten what the channel is now. The Loser one. Was he called, Patricia? Crime Stop Loser. Is that it?
Oh, True Crime Loser.
True Crime Loser. I like him. I listen to him a lot. He's so funny. Stephen. It's so funny that is when he does that. But anyway, he was saying that he thought when Chris Watts said these words that was him making another excuse. But he actually said, they said, well, how are you feeling? And he said, well, if I'd been feeling anything, I would have thought about my children and my wife, and I didn't. So he obviously feels differently now, but to use them and pretend that it was all Shanann's fault and everything, when really it was all him.
Yeah.
It's just a bit hard for the follow, isn't it? Because he didn't sound sorry enough still. He sounds like he was talking about a soap opera. He doesn't even sound like he partook in much of this. It sounds like he didn't do it because he wasn't there. Because he's got such a lack of memory for everything. But it's either that or he just is in such denial still to outwardly.
Selected memory.
Well, they're going back.
I'm wondering.
They're going back in 6 months, aren't they? So they will ask him some more questions again. And let's just hope now he's had another 6 months in prison that he's going to start feeling more like he's able to tell the truth. But at this rate, no one's going to believe him, because once you cry wolf a couple of times, no one believes you after that, do they?
No, and the fact that there weren't a trial because he pled guilty, you know, he took the plea deal, didn't he? You know, it's like we would have found the information out, we would have found all that, and he's just putting it off, isn't he? Like, oh, it's all done with. I've admitted I'd killed them all, and you know, just leave me alone, sort of thing. And you're like, yeah, but
What did you think? Because obviously you probably watched the Dr. Phil with Shanann's parents, and when they got asked, now you know what he did to Bella and the way it happened. Well, it happened much different to. It wasn't just they were all asleep or whatever. They said that they would have changed their mind about what they asked for. What do you reckon of that then?
well, it's hard, isn't it? Because they saw him as like a son, and we've got sons, haven't we? And well, we've got kids. And you know, part of you loves your child no matter what, but they can do horrible things, and you sort of, I wouldn't say in denial, but you say, well, I still love you, but I hate what you've done. But for the Rusex, it's like, I forgot what the question was, sorry. It's like,
well, just that, you know, like they went for life imprisonment. I mean, if you did hear on Dr. Phil's, Shanann's dad said he actually wanted the death penalty, but his wife didn't, so he went with life imprisonment.
it's like they said though, well, Sandy said, well, it's not for me to judge. And I'm like, yeah, I can sort of get that, you know, especially if you believe in God and stuff like that, you know, yeah, it's not for us to judge. But we do judge, you know. We might not like it, but we do. And my heart just goes out to that family because it's like it's such an awkward position to be put in. You know, you have to find peace somewhere.
And very publicly, this case, isn't it? Because most people don't have the internet going mad for 6 months, and we're still, people are, you know, like the interest in this case is still here like it was in August. You know, it's not gone away, has it? So this whole thing about their grieving, it's done kind of publicly, isn't it? For, you know, some of it's done in public. So I feel very sorry for them.
I know, especially when if you say you lose your daughter or a family member, close family member, it takes a while to get over it. But this was 4 people. How on earth? You know what I mean? It's 4 times the grieving. I know grieving's grieving, but
yeah, and definitely 3 totally innocent souls. You know, the children, the baby, everything.
Yeah.
They were totally innocent.
Well, even Shanann, you know, it's I don't, you know, it's really, really sad, really, really sad and devastating. I mean, if it's bad for us and we're just on the outside looking in, you know, I wish though that they had a. Well, it's easy for me to say, but you know, maybe they thought rotting in jail would be a slower, painful death as opposed to a quick one where, you know, he's not really suffering. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know, that they want him to slowly rot in things, because I don't think they even think like that. They just wanted to get to the bottom of it. And for them, it's closure. So.
They on the Dr. Phil program that they were almost reciting everything Chris Watts said, and they believed him.
Well, they have to, don't they? Because it's just going to keep going round in the mind, like, how did he do it? What, you know? And some of that information you don't really want to have on your brain, because once it's in your brain, you can't get rid of it. So they just wanted a bit of closure so they could move on. So
we haven't mentioned Frankie either, her brother. So much love goes out to him as well, because obviously this whole family is absolutely devastated. But I'm just so shocked that they, word for word, it was almost like we had his interview, and then they've got them repeating almost word for word from this interview. And I thought, I can't believe that they believe him, that it was like this, you know, this bit about straddling her, all that crap. I mean, in one sense, she's going, get off, you're hurting the baby, but he's still there. And then he killed them all. So he killed the baby. So just, none of it adds up.
But for them, we've got to see it from their point. They need closure. They need, you know, even taking into account how bad it was, what they knew originally, that is 10 times worse. Knowing that now Sandy's going to be worrying about Bella, but she's found peace. They've been visiting her, so that's wonderful. And she can, I mean, you'll never forget it, but you can.
Maybe she's just holding on to that bit right now. But I do find it's very strange that we're on basically a Dr. Phil program 6 months later, hearing them say that they've heard now that he took the children out alive. So back to this, because we've kind of done the confession and we've done the drive. I know we've got the tanks to do, but this Vivant thing, you know, like, didn't it capture anything then? It didn't capture anything. So we haven't got any footage of it. Otherwise, the police would have shown it to him. And the parents are learning 6 months later that the grandchildren were alive when he left the house. So the drive video isn't there. Otherwise, they would have played that to him and said, we can see you doing it here. Look, what's that shadow on the drive? There's an extra shadow here. Who is that? And it just seems really strange. Family didn't have any of this information until February this year when they went to him and asked him.
There's a lot of things. I mean, I remember reading the Discovery Files, and Sandy was saying what's happening, what's going on. They weren't giving them much information. I can understand, you know, they have to piece these things together to give them a clearer picture, but you know, I mean, this was early days, so maybe it changed later on. Did it get more sort of information as and when it was happening? But
they
maybe
clamped down on autopsy, didn't they? But you would have thought that maybe Shanann's parents and his parents actually learnt, and they'd have had to have been, you've got to keep this to yourself until the sentencing. You would have thought that they would have known. They did say on Dr. Phil's it was a bit of a shock to be sitting there in that courtroom and hearing how Bella died. Because obviously the autopsy said. So that's all a bit strange. But I mean, I'm not, you know, it just seems a bit strange, you know, that they didn't know any of this information till that courtroom. That must have been horrible.
Maybe they didn't want to know. I don't know. We don't know how they were feeling. It must be. It's awful anyway. You know, why would you want all the? Well, you would, wouldn't you? Because you need to piece it together in your mind.
But didn't you say that they kept having to ask for information, that they weren't being given the information, which is a bit like his parents? I said the same thing, didn't they? It's like everybody was completely shut out and no one was given any information.
Yeah, because the police needed to piece it together. They can't just say, oh, this has happened or that. And like I said, it was in the early days. So, and it might have been just about the fact that Chris said that they were missing. You know, so it's
basically it was the footage of the police officers' cams then that they were going off, that they knew he was guilty, because everybody likes, you know, Nicola Atkinson. People were just saying this isn't like him. He's not usually the neighbour. Well, he doesn't usually act like this. Never parks his van on the drive, and the way he was on those cam footage. And to be honest, to understand what was going on there that day, all you have to do is just slow it down a bit. And you can see it much clearer, the way he's behaving, his facials, everything, what he's doing on that phone, text, or delete. It's just, man, where are you? He just went into the kitchen and started texting.
Yeah.
Or deleting. He didn't act at all like a man that was worried. You know, his wife, his children were on medication. She was pregnant. He told her supposedly, you know, in the morning their relationship was over. So surely he could have had just a little bit of concern, and he didn't show any. So that's why they knew he was guilty, I think, because he was the only one that was acting out of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, there's still ways you can react when something like that happens. You can either be, I suppose, in shock. What? Britain? She was here at 5:30. You know, not sort of taking it in properly. Or, you know, she isn't going to be there because you know why she isn't there. And, you know, or you can react as in like, oh my goodness, you know, and tears strolling down your eyes. If his wife was missing in the early days, you'd think he'd be a little bit upset. His eyes would be a bit red because he'd been like, where is she? I'm so worried about her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, her and the children.
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously I'm talking about her and his children. You know, they've all gone missing, haven't they?
Yeah.
So if I say Shanann, I mean all of them.
And if he didn't really like her that much, say, like he says, then what about the children? He loved them. He combed their hair, put little bunches in them, read stories. He was at a pool party the day before.
Yeah.
It's just
anyway.
so
Should we move on a little bit?
Yeah, we've got two other bits to talk about. We weren't going to have the longest chat now, were we? It's not going to be like 6 hours long, but we've got Vivant and the tanks to do. So what do you want to do next, Patricia?
Whichever you want to do.
You choose.
Oh, well, I've got the order of tanks.
Yeah, go on
then. This thing about him having the gas can and the lighter, of blowing the tanks up or doing something is, I don't know. He's always thought about himself. Why would he want to kill himself? I don't get it. But go on, see what you think.
Oh, what you're talking about is the fact that maybe he was going to blow himself up at the tanks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or blow the tanks up so that no one would ever know the children were in there. And I don't think he'd got that far. I think that he was going to go back because he hadn't finished clearing everything up. But Nicole Atkinson had stepped in too quick, and it faltered everything for him, because I keep seeing videos that say all he needed was a few more hours and we'll never have caught him. And if you think this is really horrible, because it is horrible to talk about, because, you know, Bella seems such a lovely, lovely little girl. And she was probably alive maybe till 7, 8 o'clock in the morning at this rate. So literally hours, when he comes to shake that police officer's hand on the drive, literally it's hours before. I just don't know how he could have done that. How he managed to get through that whole day.
I mean, he said that himself, didn't he? He don't know how he wanted to try and look normal, like normal. You know, but maybe he was just using the can to burn the Shanann's body. You know, because part of it, if you try and, you know, it depends on where he was planning or not planning to have this explosion. You know, if he did it in the tanks, he'd be dead straight away anyway, because we've seen videos of other tank explosions.
Yeah, because they're connected, aren't they? The tanks are connected, so if there's a problem with one, it'll affect all of them.
Yeah, it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? But I think because they had monitors, didn't they? They carried monitors with them. Maybe that's what was in his hand when he came back, a monitor, a gas monitor.
I wondered that, but and at this point, thank you everybody for all the messages you've put, because a load of people have put how they think it's happened, what happened, what's in his hand, the whole lot. So thank you for all your messages, everybody who's messaged on this channel and left their thoughts. A lot of people say that he was carrying his keys and it was the garage opener, that he had the screwdriver looking thing. It was a garage opener.
Well, I don't know.
You know
But
what? When I watched it the first time, I never saw what he was doing until I slowed it down. That he actually spent maybe half. He must have turned everything off and sat there for a minute, thinking, "Right, what am I going to do?" Or he's trying to pick things up, or looking for things to put back in the house. Like if he's got anything of hers he needed to put back. I don't know, but he did take a while to come from that van. So he's late on arriving. He's taken ages to be got hold of and come back. He then doesn't just jump out the van and go, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" He messes around in the van, then he messes around putting something else in. Then he puts, I think it's a fire, an Amazon fire under his arm, because I think they had one of those. And then he's got things in his hand, and then he shakes the policeman to keep him at a distance, doesn't even acknowledge Nicola Atkinson and her son, and goes straight to the garage and goes in the car, doesn't really look at anybody, and then goes straight in the house. And when that police officer goes in, as he walks away, he's on his phone. So that's just, oh my goodness. But back to the tanks. So the bit was about the fact that you think that there's a lot of speculation that he may have been trying to blow the tanks up, or maybe he thought about killing himself. So what do you reckon then? Do you reckon it was that, or do you reckon it just, because a lot of people say this was organised, this was planned days before, but I must, again, I mentioned it in one of the videos, if he had thoughts about killing Shanann weeks before, then really the man should have realised he was mentally ill and gone to the doctors, because who has those thoughts running through their head? Hey, I don't like the children. If they step on that line again or that rug thing, I'm going to kill them. You know, none of that's very healthy, is it? In the first place, if you've got thoughts like that running around your head.
Well, how would he be able to go to the doctors? You know
what I'm trying to say is at this interview, he hadn't even registered that it wasn't good to walk around with thoughts like that in your head.
I don't think he was thinking things like that. I think he was thinking about this other person involved.
What, on the interview, you mean, the other day?
Just in general. He was focusing on her.
Listen to that. Although at the time he would have said it's love, but I think lots of lusty sex isn't love, and lots of people seem to put love as sex is love, and it isn't. That's the cherry on the cake. And if you misunderstand that, and I wonder when that starts wearing off, nobody likes each other. You know, you've got to have a bit more than that in your relationship. But he was at that point with her, but he wasn't telling you, yeah, I was definitely leaving Shanann, I had a plan. He mentioned it as that conversation in the morning, but he had no plan. He didn't come up with any, I'm going to move out. He mentioned it, but he didn't have a great big plan. And everybody says that he planned this, but he was so disorganized, that's why he got caught. So I'm just wondering.
There was a little bit in the Discovery Files about how can he stop Shanann ciphering his money off, basically. So how would you do that? If she's still alive, then you think, well, she's still going to do it. All right, we might be living in separate houses, but she's still going to siphon the money. She's still going to spend every penny, you know, because I'm going to have to pay her money. So what's the alternative? And
well, I don't think he'd quite come to stay with her in Carolina, but one of her texts was saying he's more worried about labels and money than he is about us. You know, he was changing what was important. So it was all to do with, you know, Reebok, Nike, whatever it was, labels. He was more into that kind of stuff, which I don't understand really. But again, you know,
he was more materialistic than being true to himself. Like, I've got a problem, I've got to either split up on my wife so I can be with this other person, or I stop seeing this other person and carry on with my life. And you just, you know, I don't know, there's lots of it. Anyway, we're digressing from the tanks, aren't we, a little bit?
On that one. I know we are, but I think that he wanted both things. He was trying to have it all. He was trying to have a marriage and children and and another girlfriend. But actually, when it came to it, none of it was handled, was it? Because in the end, he couldn't handle it. That's why he used his card, I think. But that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to handle everything. He hadn't worked anything out. He was just living in the moment. He wasn't thinking about tomorrow. But it's yeah, we've digressed off the tanks. Do you want to, what else do you want to say about the tanks then?
I don't think there is anything else to say because we don't really know. He said he wanted to kill himself, so why didn't he? You know, well, I don't have a weapon. Well, you know, there's other ways to do it if you really wanted to. If you felt so guilty about what you've just done, you would find a way. But no, it's his ego. He was thinking about himself all the time. Every way, you know, from when he met this other person to he was only thinking about himself. And that's what he's got to live with now, himself, because he's got no one else. Except his parents.
The thing is, he did treat them like garbage, though, how he disposed of them and putting those little girls in those tanks like that. And he couldn't even come to terms with, they knew that he had to have shoved at least Bella, if not both of them, into those holes because of bruising, because of other things. I don't want to go into it too much. We've all looked at that stuff. But they know that he had to shove the children in there. And he said, no. He couldn't even admit to that. And what person? Well, he wasn't in his right mind, was he? But surely, like, he doesn't even look like he feels guilty about the fact of where he disposed of these children the day before. Everybody said, look at a good father he is. Look how lovely and loving he is with his children. And then dumping them in oil tanks. He knows what would have happened to them in days. Another week, they probably would have disintegrated.
Well, he obviously didn't want to get caught, did he?
It wasn't about burying them, was it? He just gets getting rid of them.
Yeah.
Okay, then. But again, you know, obviously people can put their comments under this hangout to what they think about those tank things. I mean, there's lots of speculation going on right now about all this. But and then what about the Vivant then? What did you want to say about Vivant?
It weren't me talking about Vivant. You were saying Vivant. No, it's just like with all today's surveillance cameras and things like that, you'd think it would pick up. I know people say, well, it, you know, and it does say that it was turned off and all that lot, but like, would you want a security system where you can just, I mean, there's wires outside you can cut that stops it transmitting, so you can go in and burgle or worse, and
yeah, because in a sense,
like
they had more than most people could ever want on a security system, and the whole thing didn't work at all for the very thing it was set up to do. And also, this thing worked off Wi-Fi, which she turned off. There surely should have been a better mechanism in this thing, extra batteries. I know it might have been a lot of batteries. I don't know how you do it, but you know, like even the doorbell camera, it picked her coming up into the house. So what did he do to it when he was taking them out and so forth? Like if it was so able to easily to disable anything or cover it up, I don't understand. They were paying monthly for that system.
yeah.
Well, it didn't work for them, did it? It didn't work for Shanann, did it? Because it's the one thing that hasn't come forward in this investigation is much about that Vivant at all.
This is why I believe it was premeditated, and how far back it went is, I think it was from the Friday, but you know, but I was also going to mention about forensics, how forensics has changed over the decades, because I've listened to a lot of cases where they were in the 70s and 80s and the DNA wasn't, you know, there wasn't a national database where people's DNA were put on, and this is probably the reason why there is these days. So you'd think with all this technology, he would have been found out eventually anyway. Might have taken another 20 odd years and probably would have had a nice life with this other person and, you know, not being caught.
Sorry, I can't stop it, can I?
Just mute yourself. Oh.
That's it, stop now. Sorry.
You know,
Yeah, carry on.
no, just saying, you know, time would have found him out eventually anyway, and I think that's what he was hoping for. They couldn't trace him, you know. Shanann's grave was, you know, it could have been attacked by animals or something, and the girls would have been in there for months and there'd be no trace of anything, and, you know,
In a
that's
sense,
that.
it feels like I don't think he planned it for very long. If he did it, like you say, maybe only a couple of days before, because if he'd prepared it that much, he would have done a lot. Sorry, everybody, he'd have done a lot better job than he did. So I'm glad he didn't, because he got caught at least, even if we don't understand everything. So that's what I think. I think that he maybe planned a bit, but to even want to do that, wouldn't it have just been easier to have got? I bet he wished he'd just got divorced now. Actually, I think that he thought he did and all these things back then, but the people he misses right now are his wife and children. Unfortunately, he's killed them, and that he's not come to terms with. On that interview, they were talking as if Shanann was round the corner and this only happened yesterday and all her pasta. And I just thought, this is just really weird. This man has not come to terms with what he's done.
Well, I say good. You know, it's just beggars belief that someone could do that.
Doesn't seem to have much of a conscience, does he? I mean, maybe people have been talking lately, maybe he was a bit autistic or something. I mean, you wouldn't be able to get an autistic person to have all that empathy and stuff like that, but it just seemed really strange that Shanann, if even listening to her mum, was a very empathic person. So imagine she would have been absolutely heartbroken. It would have been, I'm empathic. And if you're empathic and you love people and they do really weird things, it hurts you just as much as it hurts them. But he wasn't empathic at all. He had no feelings. In fact, you heard him say, I'm very shut off. I think actually he was free flowing until he felt pushed, and then he would have shut off. But I also think that there was many emotional talks happening before, and it's such a shame that he deleted a lot of his messages. Didn't he delete a lot of his messages as well?
He said at one point he had, and then he said he hadn't. So I don't know. It's we don't know. We're never going to know, I don't think. He's always going to just give us snippets, and again, we're going to, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's the Rusex that if they found closure in that, then that's great.
But you know what? Back to that bit about the drive, the one thing that everybody thought was real, the one thing that many channels, especially one channel, has been going on and on about that drive, and that there was a girlfriend on there and everything. The one thing that you thought you had as concrete, as evidence, as proof, isn't. None of it was. They didn't even mention the drive footage in that interview at all. They never said, yeah, we caught you on the camera. We saw you carrying the bodies. We saw you carrying things. We saw you doing it. We saw the extra shadow or shadows on the drive. They never mentioned it because it doesn't exist. So the one thing we thought that we had him on doesn't exist. So you're right. We'll never, unless he tells the truth. But if they go back in 6 months and he does the same thing, but he lets a bit more out, this could take years.
Yeah, I think they were testing him as well to see if he'd, you know how they plant little things, and he'll sit there and he'll think about them, and because he'll remember what they've said, you know, maybe not all of it.
Memory, didn't he? Didn't he have a photographic memory or something?
Well, he's very, you know, people that go to school are indoctrinated into repeating, aren't they? So he was quite good at repeating, memorizing and repeating, you know. So unless he sees it long enough, is he going to remember? But he's going to know. He's going to pick up on little bits, and he's either going to forget about them, or he's going to embellish them and make them part of the story. It's like getting a jigsaw piece, go, oh, I can add that to that, and then that'll make that more plausible, and that, you know. I mean, who knows?
Yes, who knows with him, because his emotions and stuff, I don't know. He's just so, like, when you listen, he's so childish, really. Sorry, for a 30-something-year-old man with 2 children.
Yeah,
He's so like immature, but again, if maybe no one realised he was autistic or something on top of it, and those people are they're different.
well, you did say he liked labels and stuff, you know. Maybe he's gonna pick that up and go, oh, that's a label. I can go with that, you know. I know it's not the same sort of label, but I'm just trying to make a joke there, you know. He likes his labels.
Yeah, he's just so emotionless. I can't say the word. Less.
Emotionless.
Emotionless. Yeah, he's so, I don't.
Like a robot, repeating, just no feelings. Like a computer.
Yeah,
You can put all sorts in it, but it don't give you any emotion, does it?
I didn't really hear him say sorry at all. Apart from a few things where he said, you know, if I was thinking, I wouldn't have been doing this to my wife and children if I thought about my feelings for them. So where did he go?
I mean, the ones that he should be apologising to are the Rusex.
Yeah.
But he's thinking, oh well, you know, they'll get this information because, you know, somehow it'll get back to him, and that, you know.
Do
But
you really think Shanann's parents enjoyed at all listening to that whole hangout? I mean, sorry, that whole interview with him whatsoever? I'm sure they were more traumatized after that because they learned more, but it wasn't putting them at peace. It was more horror.
yeah, well, to them, I think, you know, that the fact that the children were still alive is the ultimate horror, and from that point, then they can move on slowly and in the, you know. But to them, that would have
I
been
don't think they'll ever get over this personally. They were
no, no,
a lot
I don't think they will either.
they were a lot more
I don't.
involved in her life, weren't they? Like, if Chris doesn't see his parents for 6 months, then that kind of falls into the time zone he was in anyway. They met up twice a year. So, okay, he had quite a seemingly good relationship with his dad. So that carries on because his dad speaks to him every day. But Shanann's parents stayed there, lived there, visited, you know, like we're doing hang-ups, call-ups every day to speak to the children. The whole for them, let alone what, you know, that and what happened to them, I don't think they'll ever get, and who would get over that?
No, but you have to sort of, sorry,
Not very
damn
long
sneeze.
though, is it, for them? 6 months is not very long, when really
No,
it was only September, or was it November he was sentenced. So that's still only a few months ago, and then more stuff's come out and it's even worse than he thought. So, you know, maybe they can start now, I suppose, but I just feel so sorry for them.
yeah, I
Just
know. I
imagine.
was saying about earlier to you that my mum died last year, January last year, and I still see her face. So these, sorry, not these, the Rusex, Sandy and Frankie Jr., that it's 4 people. How could you ever? You'd always be seeing their faces, you know. And I just hope Frankie and Frankie Jr. that they actually get some peace too. You know, Sandy seems to have little bit sort of, because she's getting visitations from them, and that's great. But I feel that the 2 Frankies need to have something too, you know, to help them
They got
get
to
through
spend
it.
those weeks with her, you know, because that was, you know, she was only back, well, yeah, a week when he killed her. so at least they got to spend that time with the grandchildren. But I'm sure that makes it even worse because, you know, that memory of them being there for 6 weeks is still so fresh in their mind. And what, before they've even stopped thinking about the trip that they've, you know, Shanann coming to stay, she's dead. And so are the grandchildren.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe it's a lesson for all of us. Don't cheat, don't lie, don't betray, don't get caught up in things that you can't control and are out of your depth. Work out who you are. Be nice to yourself. Be nice to everyone else. And for yourself, be yourself, know yourself, accept yourself. What is it? See yourself, know yourself, be yourself, accept yourself. Do all that first before you try and find someone else.
Yeah. I mean, they say a lot about how can you love someone else if you can't love yourself, and be responsible for your actions. You know, a lot of people haven't even thought about that, you know. And it is a really big lesson if you believe in lessons to learn. Just if you do something like that, take responsibility. Don't blame other people for it. You're the only one responsible. You know, he blamed a lot of other people. This is the catalyst and all this lot.
Used a lot of other people.
Yeah, just take responsibility. Be responsible for what you do.
But we have, you know, Patricia and I go on other hangouts as well, and we talk about this quite often, that society is very narcissistic, and it seems that society's been bred where it doesn't want to take responsibility for itself. It always blames someone else. And until we start learning to bring back community, to start caring, sharing, communicating, then these things are going to keep happening and they're going to be worse. I mean, everybody's sort of turning into like the living dead at the moment to do these things, to put human life at such a low level. We're only here for a short period of time in the first place. We should be learning to love every day. Me and Patricia say we love each other. We've got to start saying some of these words and meaning them.
Yeah, I was just going to say you've got to mean them as well. I know it's hard for a lot of people to say I love you, but
but it shouldn't be, should it?
No,
it's only,
no.
Who's told you can't? Society.
Yeah.
Anyway, you need to, if people, I tell you what people need to do. I even put a video out about it on this channel. Sorry, my screen went like blank, and I was putting away, and I muted myself. I thought I'd actually stop the hangout, but I've put a video out on this channel. You know, you need to turn the television off. Turn off the television. Once you turn that off and start, you know, doing, even if, okay, we go on another screen here, YouTube, but start noticing what's around you. Start looking into things.
Start living. Start living.
Start living. The television keep you as a zombie. You know, try not to believe what's on the television. The whole point is to always be telling you everything that's wrong.
And live our life.
It isn't wrong in the first place. It's all channeled to us. It's not real. But anyway, that's another subject. That one, we've just got to learn. Like, how many more stories? I mean, we've got another one, haven't we? Kelsey and Frazee.
Patrick.
Yeah, that looks very good. The more of that comes out, that just sounds just as wow.
Yeah.
I think that they're doing that on purpose, by the way, because isn't it that if you cause a doubt in people's minds, there'll be a mistrial? And it's a bit like the girlfriend did it, he did it. No, she did it because she was jealous. There's all that going on. If they cause a doubt, then he won't get sent. They'll have to have another trial, because don't you in America, when they go for a decision, all the members have to, probably the same here, everybody has to agree, and if one person disagrees, then that's it, you have to start again.
Yeah, got to be unanimous, hasn't it?
Yeah, but even for her, like, what a horrible ending Kelsey had. Another young, beautiful person. What's the matter with these people, you know? fortunately, we have, you know, whatever it is, the good and the bad, you have to take responsibility for things.
Yeah, and again, it's Kelsey was murdered, and the focus is taken off of her. It's about the people that have done it, and I think sometimes we need to sort of, not, I won't say forget, but focus on the actual victim, because they're the ones that aren't being heard.
Do you think that's what happened with Shanann, Bella and Cece? Because again, we're all into the drama now, but really that was my feeling in that interview with Tammy and Graham. There was none, you know, could we just take a few seconds to have respect for Shanann, Bella and Cece and Nico? All that laughing. I was biting my lip thinking, I don't know if I can listen to this. This is all wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right. None of it felt right. I mean, anybody, as I said in the video I made, most people, even Patricia, most people going to look at this hangout, come to this channel, have watched all those interviews with the police and watched. I know this was slightly different, but they still were in a prison with a murderer. So they were like that. This was like we'd gone to someone's house for a social. And I just thought it was all weird myself. It didn't feel right. I know it didn't fit. I think it's turned a lot of people off right now, because everybody was hoping that there'd be like a more serious discussion about the outcome of some of the things he did, and it turned into listening to him having macaroni cheese, you know, just
Gatorade.
Pardon?
Gatorade, whatever that is.
Instead of, you know, there was these specific words which you can listen to. Shanann was screaming and Bella was choking, and they didn't get into any of that. I mean, I know it's sad and horrible to listen to, but you wanted to know more of the truth which happened, and just where they get there, they changed the subject. So I don't understand where they did that. And it just felt that they
directed an interview. It was an interview, not an interrogation.
I know, but they were pushing the whole thing. I just wish they'd let him talk a bit when he was just.
Yeah.
He might have then said things that he couldn't step back from, because he thinks he's clever, doesn't he? And in a sense, he has got away with some of it because we don't know the truth. So he has got away with some of it. Still, after all this, you know, the whole thing. I mean, if the man wasn't belittled enough sitting in that court being sentenced, I don't know what else. He must have felt totally belittled in that court. All he's saying is, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear what injuries they have. I don't. Oh my goodness. So I just don't think he's not. I mean, like I said, part of it's like he didn't do it because he's got no memory of it. He can't explain it. The man's just in such denial. But anyway, we've been going for, I don't know, how long are we going for? About an hour. Do you think that's long enough?
3 days, isn't it?
We do many hangouts, me and Patricia, and sometimes they last 3 hours, and we've actually been on hangouts that are 6 to 8 hours long. So, yeah, we're used to being on hangouts. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, Patricia?
I think we've covered everything. It's just so sad.
It is, and like I say, maybe unless some more information comes up, we're probably going to try and move on now, because I started this channel and it seemed I started with Shanann, and I've gone from like whenever it was the first video, September, October, right round till now on just this case. So yeah, I've found lots of anomalies, found orbs, electrical orbs, found, you know, showed you his mannerism, like slowing the footage down. You can see he's just not interested whatsoever, and he's guilty. I've tried to show masses of stuff about this case. So me and Patricia probably going to try and move on, but it's a bit hard to know where to go after this case, isn't there? I've never looked into a case like this one. Have you, Patricia?
No. I mean, you know, if people who comment have got any suggestions where they'd like this channel to move on to, and not a certain person that will not be named, that should not be named. You know, any ideas would be great. You know,
Yeah, because me and
maybe
Patricia
something a bit
feel that
lighter.
we're a bit more into the psychological side of life. You know, we feel, you know, we're both empathic people. We both do quite a lot of research. Obviously, there is the Kelsey case coming up, which we'll probably get a bit into. But again, that's such a sad thing. But, you know, is there any other suggestions, maybe not even to do with crimes? Because obviously there's a lot of channels doing crimes at the moment. But anyway, we'll leave that for some comments to go in the chat afterwards, you know, messages afterwards. But it's been really great talking, Patricia, because me and Patricia talk quite a lot, don't we? And we've talked quite a lot about this case. And
Yeah.
appreciate your time, Patricia, and thanks very much. And like I say, maybe in the near future, we might do the odd live hangout. So, yeah. So anyway, thank you very much for listening, and love you, Patricia, and mwah, to everybody that's listening. So it's goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you for listening, everyone. Sorry.
Sorry.
I love you too, Karen.
There's a tiny bit of delay, I think, and we're catching each other. But anyway, yes, love you and thank you, and we'll be back soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.